Hi, everyone. I'm Hannah Carsonell, and tonight I'm going to be talking about the emotional toll of gun violence on students. I have my master's in public policy, and I have a background of gun violence, advocacy, and activism, as well as racial justice from my own experiences. So, this is an overview of what we'll be going through tonight. So, for the first slide, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of information about us at Quarantine Racism Educational Services. Going to go through our team, an introduction, talk about gun violence in the US in general, some statistics, the impact of gun violence on students, the emotional toll that gun violence has on students. 7, how teachers, educators can support students and people just within the community. 8, how teachers and educators, as well as community members, can support students through policy and advocacy. Then I'll be doing some personal case studies and conclude. So, a little bit about us at Quarantine Racism Educational Services. We're dedicated to serving students, supporting teachers, admin, and parents through emphasizing equity and the strengths of diversity in the classroom. We are Black owned, veteran owned. We have free resources such as toolkits and guides for educators in this difficult time in education policy. We have an equity professional development course, which is currently on sale for $297. We have textbooks that are for sale, free articles, graphics, and videos on initiatives and current events. And we do, such as this one right now, live stream presentations and panel discussions on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we do these live on the Quarantine Racism Educational Services Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So this is our team here. Dr. Mishkat Al-Mumin is a racial equity brand ambassador based in Nevada. Her area of expertise is grant acquisition, adult learning, and transformative education. Dr. Derek Campbell is our founder, a former principal and educator based in New Jersey. His areas of expertise are educational services and consulting, as well as tax preparation. And there's me. As I said before, I have my master's degree in public policy. I'm a racial equity brand ambassador based in Massachusetts, but I'm originally from Florida and lived in Pennsylvania but growing up. And my areas of expertise are public policy, policy research and analysis, grassroots organizing, and cultural anthropology. So there's a gun violence epidemic currently in America, and people around the country are continuously affected by this endless cycle of violence, including and especially our most vulnerable population, children. So, how can educators and others within the community support students in the aftermath of gun violence? So, gun violence in the US, here are some statistics that I wanted to share. So, 125 people in the US are killed each day from gun violence. 200 people are shot and wounded every day. I wanted to use this quote to kind of highlight a lot of times when, if people haven't experienced gun violence firsthand, when they see it in the news, they think about, which of course everyone should be thinking about the victims, but they don't think about the families left behind and the survivors and what happens and what they go through afterwards. So, gun violence shapes the lives of millions who witness it, know someone who was shot, or live in fear of the next shooting. School shootings, mass shootings, individual shootings, domestic violence shootings, and police brutality are all different forms of gun violence. I felt that that was important to include because sometimes only one type is spoken about, and all are still different types of gun violence, including self harm and suicides. Um, White supremacy. White supremacists are the largest threat of terrorism currently in the United States, and a lot of these shootings are influenced by white supremacists. thinking. One second. Just refresh this. Okay, here are some other statistics. On Gun Violence Archive is a really good source. They do a lot of great research on gun violence. So it's just showing the amount here of different gun violence deaths and injuries in the past 10 years and for 2025. So far in 2025, there have been 10,618 homicides, 304 mass shootings, 19,391 injuries. I also wanted to highlight that there's most of the extremist linked deaths, which include different gun violence, have been done by right-wing extremists in the past years because there's been a lot of confusion or purposeful confusion in the news that it's left-wing extremism, but that is the smallest amount. I wanted to discuss that, and this has been discovered and researched by the Anti-Defamation League, Homeland Security, and a lot of other organizations. So, the impact of gun violence on students. So, I want to take a second to ask if anyone wanted to try to answer on the live in the chat or anything. What is the leading cause of death for children in America? Is it A, drowning, B, cancer, other diseases or infections, C, gun violence, D, car accidents? I'm just going to give a second. It is C, gun violence. So 895 children have been killed by gun violence in 2025 so far, and 2,412 children have been injured in shootings in 2025 so far. So I wanted to highlight some charts showing the statistics that we just spoke about and how gun violence is the leading cause of death for children, unfortunately and tragically. So, the emotional toll of gun violence on students. How does gun violence emotionally and mentally affect our students, our children? So, it can result in a constant state of fear and paranoia, PTSD, anxiety, depression, self harm, or ideation. I don't want to get the video removed from as many people being able to see it by saying that. Panic disorders, academic challenges, feelings of guilt, survivor's guilt, school avoidance, social withdrawal, agoraphobia, and substance use disorders. So, how to support students who have experienced gun violence. So, here's some things that educators can do and people within the community can also do to assist students with gun violence. So, some things you can do are ask if there's anything you can do to help in this situation. Could start an after school support group, reach out to different gun violence prevention organizations that are doing the work so they can kind of um, give you some assistance with what to do in these certain situations. Have children speak to school counselors, try to find counselors and therapists versed in PTSD and childhood trauma. Check in often with students. You want to create a welcoming and supportive environment for students to be heard and cared for. Be aware of students' trauma and how it can affect their academic progress. You want to be accommodating and offer flexible deadlines for assignments. When I experienced the shooting at my school that killed one of my friends after, it was obviously difficult for a lot of us to do anything and especially try to focus and, study for a test and complete different assignments. So I think that's one thing that's overlooked, but being flexible with different deadlines for assignments is really important. So, how can educators support students through policy and advocacy? So, you could advocate for policies locally, statewide, and federally. Can lobby, speak to government officials about the issue of gun violence, advocate for policy or for different policies. Can call, email, and write letters to government officials, attend your city council, county commission hearings, PTA meetings, school board meetings, and just bring up the issue of gun violence in these different meetings and address how you can resolve it. Vote for gun sense candidates on the issue of gun violence. Can speak out about the action or inaction of officials on this issue. Can join different organizations, as I said before, that are currently working on gun violence prevention, gun reform. Other things you can do are reaching out to mental health organizations for students who have experienced gun violence, propose different policies. You really want to keep in mind throughout um, trying to do advocacy and engage in policy proposals or lobbying. You really want to amplify the voices, testimonies, and the shared experiences of those who have experienced gun violence within your advocacy, because it's important to center them and again ask what people need in that situation and what things would be helpful for them, what policies would they want to see. So here I have a list of different gun violence organizations and mental health support organizations and resources. So one is Change the Ref, which I worked for. My classmate Joaquin, who was killed in the shooting at my school, his parents, Manny and Patricia Oliver, created this organization. And Manny is an artist and he utilizes art within activism and raises awareness for gun violence and gun reform policies through that. And they go on tours and raise awareness and make change. And two, Crime Survivors for Safety and Justice. I've worked with them as well. And they lobby and propose different policies in different state houses to protect crime survivors and to help them after the crime is done to them. Three, March for Our Lives, which was established after the shooting at my school by some of my classmates. Four, Sandy Hook Promise. Five, Moms Demand Action. Six, Students Demand Action. Seven, Every Town for Gun Safety. And they do have a survivors network, which is for survivors to connect with each other. And I believe they do provide some mental health resources. Eight, Community Justice. Nine, Brady United. 10, Giffords has a gun violence survivor toolkit. 11, the Coalition to Stop Gun Violence. 12, Fund for a Safer Future. 13, the National Education Association has a gun violence prevention and response guide for educators. 14, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. And they have a hotline that you can call. 15, Child Welfare League of America. 16, the National Alliance of Mental Illness. and they have support groups. 17, the National Child Traumatic Stress Network. 18, Mental Health America. 19, Survivors Empowered. 20, Psychology Today, and you can use their website to search for therapists near you, and you can look it up through different insurance or see what the cost would be without insurance. 21, Teachers Unify to End Gun Violence, and 22, the American Federation of Teachers. So this is a personal case study. So after the shooting at my high school, which killed my friend, 13 classmates, and 3 teachers, as well as injured 17, I started engaging in activism and advocacy for gun reform, gun violence prevention. And as I stated before, this was alongside different organizations such as March for Life, started by my classmates, Change the Ref, started by Manuel and Patricia Oliver, Crime Survivors for Safety and Justice. So, as I stated before, Change the Ref is an organization which fights for gun reform, utilizing powerful works of art in order to raise awareness. And it was founded again by my classmate who was killed in the shooting, Joaquin's parents, Manny and Patricia Oliver. So with them, I worked with them on organizing a 20-hour live stream for what would have been Joaquin's 20th birthday in order to raise awareness about gun violence and call for change concerning gun reform and gun safety. So I worked on organizing and engaged in this live stream to raise awareness. So these are just, I'm just highlighting some personal case studies to highlight the work that has been done by the people that I really care for that are doing incredible work. And I'm showing you, kind of giving you a roadmap as to certain things that you can do to engage in advocacy and to support your students and their families as well, and just the community at large. So, Crime Survivors for Safety and Justice is a network of crime survivors working on community support and public safety policy. As I said, lobbying was part of it, and they have conventions at different state houses. And at one of their conventions, I advocated for a job and housing security bill that they had created for crime survivors. And in a meeting with Florida House Representative Evan Jenny, I referenced my personal experience of gun violence, and I proposed that educational accommodation should be included in the bill because, as I said before, it was really difficult to be able to focus after everything had happened, and the building was obviously up where it happened in, and we didn't go to a different school campus. We stayed there, so it was just difficult overlooking and seeing the building where everything had happened and having to focus and, like I said, having to do different tests and study and get the work done. So that was really difficult, and some things that would have helped at that time would have been educational accommodations. So, to conclude, in the current state of America, where the number one cause of death for children is gun violence, how can we support our students? So, individually, we can support them through counseling, checking in, after school support groups. As I said, there's also online support groups from the different organizations I went over. Through policy and advocacy, we can support our students. So, proposing and supporting various policies that already exist, working alongside gun violence organizations. Again, I like to say that you don't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel and come up with your own organization or anything when there's already people that are doing the work that would be happy to help and would be glad to have your support. So that's something else that's really important. voting for gun sense candidates, contacting government officials, and again, it's important to speak out about the actions that are taken or the inaction that's being done. Lobbying, speaking to various officials about the issue of gun violence, and advocating for a specific policy or various policies. And within all of this, I just want to reiterate that centering gun violence victims, the families of victims, and survivors in your advocacy, that is just extremely imperative because you want to be listening to and hearing the testimonies of those who have been directly affected in order to determine what you can do to best help them, best support them, and stand in solidarity with them. Here are my references. And here's how you can contact us. I have the general quarantine racism accounts, our personal accounts, the accounts of Dr. Campbell, Dr. Moomin, and my accounts as well. Thank you.